Good evening and welcome to the Red Hook Town Board meeting of June 23rd, 2021. Would you be kind enough to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
All right, you're all set. Have a great night, everybody.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
To the Red Hook
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
Would you be kind
indivisible, with liberty
and
and
justice
justice for all.
You're all set. Have a great night, everybody.
pledge allegiance to the
The
flag
flag
of the
of the United States of America
To the Red Hook
and to the republic
which it stands,
stands.
I think we have a feedback problem.
under God,
Yeah.
Would you be kind
indivisible, with liberty
And
and justice for all.
see if we can get rid of that. Okay, that should take care of that. Let's hope. Very good. This is the second meeting of the month, and we just have a couple of announcements for the folks at home. Matt, if you'd be kind enough to put up the agenda, there we go. For the folks at home, we'll be discussing each year we get our various departments audited, and we'll be accepting the results of that audit, favorable results. We have a resolution which encapsulates our agreement with the village to shepherd through the applications on the fast charging stations. We have a resolution approving a standard workday. That's a formality that we go through each year. And then we're going to have a brief discussion on grant opportunities from the state. The deadline is coming up at the end of July. So we want to talk about the various possibilities and categories. And then, maybe a little more time dedicated to a topic that has been in discussion and work has been started on, and that's short-term rentals for the folks at home. Short-term rentals need to be permitted by local zoning in order for them to be legal. And so the town wants to take a look at how to guide these short-term rentals appropriately in our community. And after that, we have our board and department reports. And so we thank you for joining us. Okay, a couple of announcements for the folks at home. The first announcement will be that we will be opening up Town Hall this upcoming Monday, June 28th, by appointment. We ask you to please check the various departments that you want to visit and call ahead. We want to ensure that we can service you without having crowds in an area. It's difficult to do social distancing here at Town Hall. We are asking everyone to please wear a mask when you come into Town Hall. That's for everyone's protection. We're being cautious as things develop, but as we speak, numbers are looking very good. They're down quite a bit from just even our last meeting. So that is the first announcement. The second is that Dutchess County Department of Health is offering a free rabies vaccination, and that is actually this Sunday from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., and that's at the SPCA on Violet Avenue in Hyde Park. That's the continuation of 9G, and the proof of residency is required. If you are a non-resident, you can get your pet vaccinated, but there is a $10 fee for that. Okay, very good. Anyone else have any other announcements? Okay, we want to remind folks that the deadline is coming up on our summer rec program to submit your health records for your child or children. Sign-ups have concluded. Camp is starting the week of July 5th. but you still have a couple of days to email or to fax over vaccination records as per usual each year. Okay, very good, Matt. We can go on to our first item for the agenda. As we do each year, it's accepting the audit reports. Our audits were done just the other day. As a matter of fact, Lori Doty does a wonderful job for us. This is part of the internal controls that we have in place for your tax dollars. The offices that were audited and tested, I should say, were town clerk for a period of the year, town justice courts, and a report on compliance for the federal program and internal controls related to OMB. The general fund receipts and disbursements were also a survey. So are there any questions for the town board members on the results of Lori's audit? Okay, if not, Deanna, may I ask you the resolution number for this? 38? Okay.
Yes.
Dated June 23rd, accepting the audit reports. And who would like to move resolution 38?
I so move.
Thank you, Bill. Second?
I second.
Thank you, Bill Hamel. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Jacob, aye. Christine Kane.
Aye.
The resolution is approved as unanimous. Item number 2 on the agenda is resolution number 39. We had to establish, obviously for grant purposes, an intermunicipal agreement for the fast charging station, since the town will be doing the work associated with getting the grants and supervising that project. And so with the good work of our attorney to the town, Chris Shaw, did you want to explain what the IMA looks like?
Sure. So this is the form of the IMA is the same as the format that we've been using for several IMAs, including the last one that we did with the village for the building department. The base form of the contract provides for the basic terms of the shared service, cross indemnity, insurance, and the things that protect both of the parties. And then the attachment, which here relates to the grant agreement, if you want to scroll down to Exhibit A, describes the specific project that we're doing to try to make the process of both reviewing and applying this more efficient. So when you read Exhibit A, you can see that the project is described here to include the town's responsibility for preparing the grant applications, administration, procurement, and then once the units are in, the village would own its units, and of course the town would own its own units.
And this is a requirement for the grant applications themselves.
So I also want to point out that there's in this agreement, there's an obligation on the part of the town to provide for match funding. As I understand it, the application includes an amount, presumably, if the town receives the grant, the zero emission vehicle grant would provide for a portion of the cost. There's a second grant that Robert can explain that pays for a portion of the make ready portion of the project. But then there is going to be some portion which is match, and this identifies that as not to exceed $10,000 without further approval by this board. So this resolution does include that authorization. All right.
And it's our expectation, if you review the numbers that we had previously, it's our expectation that there actually will not need to be a cash match, but we want to be sure that we have a resolution that can accommodate should the project for some reason run over budget. The funding that's provided by the utility, Central Hudson, provides 90% of the make ready work. So that includes everything from the electric to preparing the site, to moving things out of the way if necessary, in order to accommodate these fast charging stations. So any questions about the IMA or the exhibit that goes with it? Okay, very good. If not, I'd like to move resolution number 39, approving an IMA between the village and the town of Red Hook with regard to the fast charging station project. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bill O'Neill. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, Jacob Testa. Did we lose Jacob?
Hi, do you hear me? Sorry.
There we go. We can hear you now.
Yep.
Christine Kane
Aye.
and Bill Hamel.
Aye.
Thank you very much. As part of our procedures, New York State Comptroller's Office asked that we record the hours and days worked of various elected and appointed officials. And as part of that, there is a resolution establishing what's considered a standard workday. And so that's this resolution here. And there are the positions that are indicated on the forms as part of the resolution. Any questions about that? Okay, if not, all in favor, I would like to move resolution number 40, which is approving the standard workday and reporting. Is there a second?
Second.
And who is that? Thank you, Bill O'Neill. All in favor, Bill Hamel,
Aye.
Christine King,
Oops, aye.
Jacob Testa.
Hi.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving right along. We have, it's that time of year again where the state puts out their offer to fund different initiatives in different areas. And so one of our engineers, Ty and Bond, has put together for us this little matrix, and I apologize for the folks at home. There's too much information on it to see easily, but it's all available on our website. And the different areas in which we can apply for funding. And tonight I'm not going to ask you board members to make decisions, but to really take a look at some priorities. For 2021, we've already talked about finding additional funding for St. Margaret's now that we're really putting forth the notion of fixing up the interior and getting it to some good use. And so there's possibilities in some of these programs to get some of the funding. Other priorities, continuation of the expansion of our recreation programs. You can take a look at that as well. And so what I would ask you is to really take some time. We do have a few weeks before our July 13th meeting. But at that meeting, we will need to make some decisions because the deadline is July 30th. And while our second meeting is July 28th, that won't give us enough time to prepare these applications. So what I'm asking you is to come prepared on the 13th to really advocate for particular grant applications, and then we'll authorize either our engineer or others to file those applications on behalf of the town. Any questions about this is now, I forget which year that they've consolidated all the grants into this one cycle New York State has in order to make it easier for us, although it's really created sort of a crushing time to get them all in. We've been unsuccessful with our grant to study the extension of the sewer that is going to be built in the village. We do intend, after having a debrief phone call with the state, to reapply. They've given us some tips on how we might score higher by focusing on some aspects of the project and its location and how it fits into our smart growth objectives. So that's something that look for more discussion on the 13th. And we have talked about some more money from OPRHP, Office of Parks and Environmental Protection, for Rec Park West. So let's see if we might consider again another application for that as well. So that said, just to further confuse you, if when you're considering these grant applications and our priorities, would you also take a look at some of the funding opportunities with the rescue plan monies? And there's even a little bit left over on CARES monies. So we're going to try and put the pieces together so that we can get some of these projects completed, not just started. Any questions? Does the board have any questions about the CFA grants and the various departments? And they have a lot of information on the Empire State Development website, which I think I forwarded to you.
Do we have any feedback as to, if you put in multiple applications, if there's, if that counts against you, or if there's some point where that too many would count against you or something?
My understanding is that's not an issue. Now, whether or not there's some thinking up in Albany about trying to spread around the investment, I don't know. But my understanding is you're not discouraged from putting in. In fact, they like the more the merrier. So, and there may be additional funding this year coming through the federal government. We'll see.
Okay. I think, I think there's quite a few things we could certainly consider. So we'll just have to think about as you said, it's a lot of applications to get done in a short period of time. So we'll just have to see what the assets we have to get them done, and then how we can allocate them.
Okay. Good. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Very good. Hearing none, why don't we move on to the next item on the agenda, which is short-term rentals. So like most municipalities, the town of Red Hook posed with trying to figure out how to address this emerging trend of short-term rentals, more commonly known as Airbnbs or VRBOs or some other company label. And so for a period of time prior to the pandemic, I know the ITF has taken up at our request, taking a look at other municipalities, what they've done, and coming to a recommendation of what we might consider as a town board to try and address, both accommodate and guide short-term rentals in our community. And I know that initiative was moving along, and we had one public info session, and we've had some input from our Economic Development Committee on the issue. And so tonight, I thought it'd be helpful if Bill O'Neill, who chairs the ITF, and Christina Ducharme, who chairs our Economic Development Committee, would put some thoughts together for us and the recommendations that are being considered, and we might move this discussion forward. And at the end of it, ask for public input to get your thoughts about short-term rentals, and more than just whether you're in favor of them or against them, but how specifically we might address them. We have many different zoning districts, and in some it may be more suitable to be more accommodative than in other zoning districts. So with that being said, Bill O'Neill, if you'd be kind enough to get us started, and I think Christina Ducharme has joined us. Christina, are you there?
Hello.
Hi,
How are
how are
you?
you doing? Good to see you. So, Bill, you want to take it away?
Yeah, well, the Intermunicipal Task Force has recommended to the town board that the board approve legislation to allow short-term rentals in the town of Red Hook, which are currently not allowed. The proposal is that a local law regulating STRs, short-term rentals, be adopted. And the definition of a short-term rental is a structure where overnight accommodation is provided for transient occupants for compensation for fewer than 30 days or nights. The proposal is that this legislation replace the current bed and breakfast law, which has been on the books in the town of Red Hook for many years, and that it allow STRs as an accessory use to a single family dwelling, which must be the primary residence of the property owner. STRs would require an annual operating permit from the building department. And they would be classified in two types: hosted, where the owner is present on the premises overnight, and unhosted, where the property owner is absent. Those would be the two types of STRs that would be proposed. For hosted STRs, they would be classified in three particular classes. One to two bedrooms, which would be allowed in all residential zoning districts except the RD1 and the RD1.5, and the WC and the TND residential and OI, office industrial. A class 2 would be 3 to 4 bedrooms, again located within a single family dwelling, offered for rent, allowed by a special permit in all zoning districts except, again, the 1 and 1.5 RD, the WC, the LI, and the TND, R, and OI. And then the third class would be for accessory buildings. It would allow 1 to 2 bedrooms located in an existing accessory building, again on a single family lot offered for rent, and they would be in all zoning districts except, again, the 1 and 1.5 RD zoning district, the WC, and the business districts in the town. An unhosted STR would only be allowed, according to this proposal, in the ag business district, which comprises most of the, a lot of the land in the town of Red Hook. But the task force also recommends that there be an annual one-time exception. In other words, in all zoning districts, except, again, the RD1 and the 1.5, a limited exception would be available to owners of a single family dwelling who occupy the dwelling as their primary residence, who may rent the dwelling unhosted one time per calendar year for less than 30 days. But again, subject to registration with the town building department. That's the essence of the proposal by the Intermunicipal Task Force after 2 or 3 years of research. And it's based principally on a balance between two formal points of view. One, that there should be a regulation of STRs in the town of Red Hook so that we preserve the rural character of the town of Red Hook as outlined in our comprehensive plan, and support a residential character in our zoning districts, to not allow commercialization in the zoning districts. And third, to promote affordable housing in the town of Red Hook. In other words, to control the cost of housing available in the town of Red Hook. And that's balanced against the other side of the ideology, which is that STRs should be allowed in all zoning districts to promote economic development, to promote tourism in the town of Red Hook. And of course, because everyone should have an absolute right to use their property however they want to. So in this balancing of the extremes of point of view, this is the proposal that the task force has recommended.
Okay, very good, Bill. Thank you very much. And just for background on our existing zoning, I think it was 2016, 2017, We removed lodging as it was previously defined from the R3 zoning districts, from the residential districts, right? And then we, as part of Centers and Green Space, in figuring out additional uses for farms to help keep them afloat, if you will, we enabled the construction of an inn on farm parcels up to a certain amount of rooms. I believe it was 10 or 11 rooms. And so that sort of dovetails with what you're saying about the ABD. It's kind of consistent with that. So very good. Well, thank you, Bill, for that summary. And for the folks at home, we have a lot more information on the website that you may be interested in checking out and get your thoughts on it. Christina?
Yeah,
Here somewhere.
you.
There you are.
over here.
Okay. Very good.
Thanks.
Good to see you. Thanks very much. And Christina chairs our Economic Development Committee, and I know that you also have been looking into this and its potential. And what would you like to share with us?
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight on behalf of the Economic Development Committee. And first off, I'd like to say that overall, truly, we're in agreement with the ITF that we need to allow short-term rentals in Red Hook, and that they should be acknowledged and regulated within our zoning code. And we acknowledge that it's a new type of industry, and currently the zoning code doesn't have, that's not acknowledged currently by our zoning code. But I think, I'm not sure that we disagree on the general classes and outline of what Bill just presented, but I think that the differences in where we're coming from are where we think STRs should be allowed, in what districts. And overall, I think that we can find a way to perhaps simplify the overall zoning proposal. So I wanted to take you through some of the points that we put together. And our group has done a lot of research over the past 3 years. So really what I wanted to present to the group tonight is some of the opinions and conclusions that we've reached, but also just general research and data surrounding short-term rentals and what they currently look like within our town.
Okay.
So like I said, we understand the need for modest regulation of short-term rentals to ensure that they operate safely and respectfully within our town. That, we believe strongly in the short-term rental benefits to our community. And there's kind of 4 points that we came to as a committee that we support. We think that all short-term rental operators should be required to register within the town via an annual operating permit, which is similar to the ITF's proposal. But we think that we should allow hosted short-term rentals as a permitted use within all residential zoning districts. And allow unhosted short-term rentals, perhaps by special permit, in all residential zoning districts. And then perhaps to allow both by special permit in all business zoning districts. So we put together a series of documents, which I hope will be shared on the town website. And there are 4 parts which we submitted as an addenda to our letter. The first is Red Hook specific short-term rental census research, sort of quantifying where they're located and what short-term rentals we currently have within our town. The second was that we looked at, we put together a questionnaire and we distributed it to businesses townwide to find out, what kind of effect short-term rentals have on businesses within our town. And the third is that we put together a proposed use table. And the fourth is a proposed legislation that the EDC has prepared. So from all of our research, there's a few things that we concluded, sort of like data-driven points. One is that there are currently only 29 short-term rentals in the town of Red Hook, which is actually and surprisingly a decrease of 50% from when the topic was initially discussed by the ITF in 2018. And during that entire 3 years, we're only aware of one complaint that was made to the town within that time. The second is that our businesses and our farms rely heavily on tourism. We wholly support preservation of open space, and I think that blends with some of the agritourism and support of our farms, which dovetails with this issue. The third is that the lodging in our town relies heavily on the current and long-standing existence of short-term rentals. There are no operating hotels currently within our town, zero. There are a few within the villages, but there are zero within our actual town. So the lodging is primarily being served by short-term rentals. The fourth is that while the number of operating short-term rentals in our town is small, the actual number of bedrooms that they provide to our visitors is essential. So they're really having an impact. The fifth is that while our town recovers from the COVID pandemic, our businesses really need and deserve our support, and allowing short-term rentals supports them. The sixth is that short-term rentals appeal to the modern traveler, and if we do not allow them, we will lose those travelers to towns that will allow them. The seventh is that the hosted short-term rentals provide an option for increased affordability to our residents that rely on it. And that's particularly in the R1 and the R1.5 districts. The short-term rentals that exist in these districts actually increase the affordability of homes. And we're really seeing, and I'll go through the list in a second, but we're seeing in those districts, what people are doing is they're renting out a bedroom, or they're renting out a garage apartment that already exists, and they're making ends meet that way. So it's contrary to the point that it's damaging neighborhoods and we're losing affordability of housing. The data that we've found actually supports the opposite viewpoint. And the last point is simply that short-term rentals are highly critical to our economy. So our goal overall is to allow short-term rentals that support our businesses and provide opportunity to our residents, while at the same time assuring that they are safe, that they follow building codes, that they are reviewed by building inspectors and follow commercial codes that they're needed to. And that they're not an impediment to our neighborhoods. And in order to maintain our rural community, we must establish a sustainable economy. And at this economically fragile point in time, short-term rentals are absolutely critical to that mix. So I don't know who's screen sharing, but if we could just kind of go through, I think if you scroll down to the next page there, it's the first, yeah, that's it. The addendum 1, this is a census that we did through carefully analyzing short-term rentals on Airbnb and VRBO. We created an accurate list of all those short-term rentals located within the town of Red Hook, eliminating those that are outside of Red Hook proper, or the villages of Red Hook or the village of Tivoli. And then furthermore, we mapped the location of each of them and determined what zoning district each lies in. And we noted what type of listing they are, hosted versus unhosted. So this research was done in March of 2021. and then again in June of 2021. And we found negligible change between those two dates, which basically just confirms the accuracy of the research. And a version of this research was also performed in 2018 when we saw that there was actually twice as many short-term rentals in that period. So our findings were that, again, the town of Red Hook has 29 short-term rentals currently, 50% of those that we had in 2018. Only 9 of them, or approximately 1/3, are unhosted. And those 29 active listings offer a total of 51 bedrooms. And then 11 of the 29 listings would be prohibited under the current ITF proposal. So you can see on that chart below that just outlines which zoning district the STR is located in and the number of listings. And then if we can just briefly scroll through the next couple pages, I'll just show you. So this is some of the research that we've done, really quantifying where these short-term rentals are located, which we cross-referenced with parcel access data and, located where they are. They're all listed actually by the ITF's classifications. If they're hosted class 3, hosted class 2, hosted entire house. And then the red and green circles indicate whether they would currently be prohibited or permitted under the ITF regulations. So the red ones are prohibited and the green ones are permitted. So you can kind of just, I hope this information gets passed along to the public and is available on the town website, just so people can get a sense of where these are located and how many would currently be eliminated under this proposal.
Christina, the documents are all up on the website already.
Thank you, Robert.
Sure.
So you can see there's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of pages. And then we come to our addendum 2, which is a questionnaire that we distributed via SurveyMonkey to 175 unique Red Hook businesses to assess the impact of short-term rentals on the businesses and to gauge the health of our local economy. So our findings, based on our 33% response rate, we concluded the following. We concluded that merchants rely heavily on tourism. Merchants reported the following business streams. 13% of their business comes from tourist walk-ins. 8% of their business comes from visiting Bard College families. 25% of their business comes from local walk-ins. 14% phone orders, 23% e-commerce, and 70% unknown. So you can see from the numbers that tourism is extremely significant to our merchants. The merchants credit short-term rentals as hosting 1/3 of the tourists that visit their shops and restaurants. 35% is what was reported. And also 1/3 of our businesses say that their business is declining post-pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, businesses reported 62% experiencing growth, 38% describe their business as stable, and post-pandemic, 42% are experiencing growth, 26% report their business is stable, and 32% indicate a decline. Lastly, that businesses are advocating for more local lodging options, not less. 26% stated that the lack of lodging impedes their business. So we included all of this information really just to show that this is real. This is real to people's lives and their livelihood, and short-term rentals truly play a role in the health of our town and villages. So if you scroll to the next page, this is a simplified version of what the ITF proposed that I think the town board should sincerely consider. It's essentially, you know, dividing the short-term rentals into hosted and unhosted, and, you know, providing an option for either a process for them to be permitted or to have a little extra review through a planning board process for a special permit for unhosted short-term rentals. And then if you scroll to the next page, this is a legislation that was passed by the town of Marbletown, which the EDC, we looked at legislation from many communities in our area. And what we found is that, you know, Marbletown is actually fairly similar to Red Hook in scale, and they, you know, and in sort of demographics and what's going on there. And they put together a really simple proposal that permits short-term rentals, that requires an annual operating permit, and, you know, requires some basic like building safety elements, requires an egress plan and a parking plan and a waste removal plan, and requires that non-owner operated short-term rentals assign a host. And, you know, if you read through this, you'll see that really in 2 pages, they've outlined something very, very simple that, you know, that permits the short-term rentals, and, you know, keeps it safe and keeps it regulated, but allows it really everywhere throughout their municipality. So so that's our proposal. I would, you know, we really welcome public input from this, and I think that, you know, that one of the big takeaways from the EDC is that this really needs to be a larger public conversation, and we appreciate the work that the ITF has done in sort of bringing this issue to light and you know, outlining something that we can all work from to find a solution that allows short-term rentals, you know, in a way that benefits everyone in the community. So thank you.
Thanks, Christina. And for the folks at home, just because we get this question a lot, any zoning that the town adopts does not apply to either one of the villages, so you should know that. So anything we endeavor to do here in the town will be done in context, but certainly won't apply to the villages. I had a couple questions. So it's likely, Christina, though, the number of decreased short-term rentals is related to the pandemic. A lot of folks came up here, from what I understand, and they wanted a longer-term solution to removing themselves from denser populations where they felt safer up here. And many of them committed to a longer term rental. So I'm just wondering if we might see a little bit of an ebb and flow back towards higher numbers, because I think at some point we did have 70 something, 80 something. You would know better than me. You did the host component.
Yeah, it did decrease by at least 50%. So, you know, I think there is some fluctuation of the numbers, you know, from time to time, but in the time period that we've looked at it recently, it's been stable at this number. So
Right.
That's what we've seen.
Can you just tell us when you did the survey on the economics, and it's not necessarily related to STRs, but just in general, post-pandemic, because I consider post-pandemic maybe about to happen, not necessarily happening, or have happened already. When the survey was done, and hopefully our businesses are doing better than those results.
Yeah,
report.
it was recent. I mean, the survey we did, I mean, you know, our small businesses, part of the reason that we advocate for them is because all of these owners are so busy trying to run their own businesses. So, you know, that we, you know, they really need a voice. But it took us a while because we had to chase people down to get them to, you know, respond to the survey. So we had it open for maybe like 2 months. It's recent,
So it's a March through May kind of a thing? Is that what you're saying?
approximately.
Okay. Okay, those are all my questions. And yes, for the public, we have these documents up on our website. We'd like to get your input, specifically with regard to how to accommodate and how to guide and regulate these in our community. It's something that all communities have been struggling with, trying to figure out that balance of what works for all of the residents in our community. So we look forward to your input. Town
Actually-
board members, Christine.
Yeah, actually, I have a couple of questions. I just wanted to, I guess this is probably for Bill from the Intermunicipal Task Force. The definition that you're using for the short-term rentals of fewer than 30 days or nights, it sounds like that means, in a row, not like cumulative over a certain period of time, correct?
Right.
Okay. And is there, in either of the proposals, I apologize if I missed it, but anything that talks about a maximum density for short-term rentals within a district, within a zoning district?
You mean the number that are allowed in the zoning district?
Right. I know I have,
No.
read some articles where communities have looked at no more than, say, whatever, X per
No.
50% of housing stock can be in short-term rentals or something like that.
No, we do not have a lottery system, and we do not have a limitation system in the proposal.
Okay, I didn't think I saw that, but thanks for clarifying that.
Nor does the EDC in our proposal.
Okay. Sometimes I think we all know that we often run into trouble with the actual enforcement and penalties under some of the zoning things, and they can take some time to work through them. So I think the EDC has a proposal for a one-time exception for a rental, short-term rental. And have you thought anything about how that would be enforced?
The ITF has the one-time exemption.
Oh, okay, sorry, Bill.
And
Okay,
It would require a permit from the building department, and that's how we would keep track of it.
okay. And then quite some time ago now, we got some information from Dutchess County about that they were going to be participating in a technology platform to, try to track short-term rentals for, bed tax purposes. If I think they were offering, that towns could join that platform also as a way to regulate the short-term rentals, and of course, then generate the bed tax money as sort of a level the playing field between more traditional lodging types like hotels and motels, and then the short-term rentals. So do you think that that's something that could also be used to do the one-time exception? Keep an eye on the one-time exception?
Well, we consider that a monitoring service that they've contracted with Dutchess County to monitor all the municipalities in their STRs. But first, you have to pass a law on STRs before they will agree to contract with you. So if the town of Red Hook passes a law regarding STRs, then what would follow would be some contract with the Dutchess County and their agency to monitor STRs in our town.
Right. Okay. I just wondered if it might be a technology that we could use for the one-time exception or something, monitoring.
Well, once we have a record of what STRs are existing in our town and paying their taxes, then we would be able to monitor whether they have permits to operate in the town. So yes, it will be something that we'll be able to use.
Okay. Okay. I am still, I do get feedback from folks about, and we have some, I don't know if I should say unique situation or some extenuating circumstances with our housing stock, particularly rental stock, because we have, the annual changes in needs for students, particularly from Bard College, as they come in and out of the town each year. So I am somewhat concerned that, so we kind of have a high entry level for some apartment rentals, as it is. And then, if a larger percentage of some of those apartment rentals should go to STRs instead, then we're going to even see more tightening on our housing stock, and the affordability of that lessen potentially, as the same number or more people are trying to get into fewer apartments. So I would like to, if anybody has any more information, studies or surveys or anything that we could look at around that issue, I would certainly welcome that information.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. In the research, quantifying the short-term rentals and where they're located, one of the things we did is we looked at where the owner of the, who the owner of the property is in comparison with the host on the short-term rental website. And like, I think almost all of them, except one or two, were, were owner operated. So what we're not seeing is we're not seeing a vast amount of people coming in and buying homes and using them as a business, and taking away neighborhoods. What we're seeing in contrast is actually people are using it as a mechanism to make additional income, either by renting their own home when they're not in it for a few weeks or for the summer, or renting a bedroom out. So that's what the data that we collected shows across Red Hook.
Mm-hmm. And then just one more clarification. I think this was for you, Christina. You mentioned that in the time that you've been, was in the time of the survey or the time that you were doing your research, that you had found only one complaint, I guess, about STRs made to the town. I was wondering, that would be, for instance, if there something under zoning, right? Did you check with the police departments to see if there were any complaints made to the police departments, which could be noise or too much parking or, something like that?
I'd have to get the specifics from our team, from our committee, but in our vast amount of research over the past 3 years, that's what we found. We found one complaint.
Okay.
So it's pretty surprising. They've been operating for a long time, and 2018 there were twice as many, and so it doesn't seem like there's a lot of disruption going on from short-term rentals, which is kind of how the system somewhat self-regulates, because owners are looking for good ratings, and and so are the visitors.
Okay.
Christine, I think it would be helpful to follow up on Christine's question. You did an excellent job of identifying the units that are currently available, and which ones would be eliminated and which ones would stay. If you were to be able to answer the question of whether you went to the local police or other authorities, I'm aware of the one complaint that you mentioned, because that came to the town. But what Christine makes a good point, that there could have been other complaints involving other short-term rentals for which we didn't match the two things up. And since you did such a great job of figuring out, because it is kind of hard sometimes to figure out, where is really that particular rental, to go back, because we do get a monthly police report Bill is the person who is the liaison with the police, the village police, and we get it, and it gives by address. And so we could go back and, further explore that with more granularity to see whether or not, in fact, it is or is not an issue. But I think that would be sort of helpful information.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd be happy to take that on to look into that with some more detail and report back to the board. We do have all of the addresses and owners mapped, and I didn't share them on this document, for their privacy, but
Okay.
But we can certainly look at that and cross-reference that with the information that's available from the police and get you that information.
Great.
I think also general trends. I mean, I would concur with what Christina has said. We haven't had a large number of folks complaining about short-term rentals. I will say the caveat is that, oftentimes neighbors don't like to complain about their neighbors because they are their neighbors. And so there could be situations that are causing some friction that we're not aware of. But there are other issues associated, not just noise. I see the town of Saugerties in the news this week is going to take up this topic because they have had noise complaints. I think our issue is, how do we accommodate and guide and try to head off any of these things before they do become an issue, and it starts to have a backlash of people who are upset about us accommodating them in their residential neighborhood. To your question, Christine Kane, about housing, I was on a conference call today with the mayor of Tivoli, and he was reporting, we were talking about off-campus housing, and he was reporting that 7 homes that he knows of in the village of Tivoli have been sold, that were used for rentals, have been sold and are now occupied by primary homeowners. These are individuals who have chosen our wonderful community for full-time residency, and that's really quite wonderful. But it does speak to other pressures that are upon our housing stock, both in terms of pricing and supply and demand as well. Any other comments that anybody has before we bid farewell to this topic? Again, all of the materials are on the town's website. We look forward to getting some input from you, and we thank both of you for summarizing your thoughts on this topic, and we'll look to continue this conversation and hopefully move towards compromise and consensus in the future.
And so just one quick thing is I really want to thank the members of the EDC for the tremendous amount of work that they have put into this. And you can just see from how well the materials are put together. Great presentation, Christina. And also, the Intermunicipal Task Force, the members on that committee have been working on this a number of years and have also done a lot of research. So again, I think this is just a wonderful example of, the people we have in our town willing to come together and, volunteer their time to dive into these, what you might start out thinking is going to be a relatively simple issue, and 3 years later, you're still working on it.
Exactly.
So I really want to thank everybody for all of their hard work on it.
I second that motion, Christine. Without volunteers giving us advice, we wouldn't make the best possible decision that we can. So we really do appreciate it. Okay, very good. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you very much. We look forward to the continued conversation.
Great. Thanks so much. Bill O'Neill, you are still with us.
Yeah.
And so we're going to move on to department reports, shall we?
Yeah, but I'm having a hard time picking up my reports on my computer, but go ahead.
Okay, well, not to worry, because Matt's going to screen share them with you.
Okay.
Why don't we start, however, with, what do we have first? The Water District report. Let's have Bill Hamill do that, shall we?
All right. I'll make it brief. I think the only thing I really want to report on is item number 2 on that page that Matt has put up about the pump volumes, to make sure people understand that even though the pump volumes on the 2 wells have reduced from normally about 150 gallons per minute down, that was an intentional thing that the water department has done to reduce the amount of water that's being pumped that's unnecessary, and to help with monitoring the tank level. It seems to be a perfectly fine amount that we're pumping, and that way we're not wasting water and we're not wasting electricity. So, this was a trial to see how it would work if we reduced that amount that we pump with respect to the demand. And this seems to be just fine. And they're going to keep monitoring it, of course, but I just want to make sure that the public recognizes that we don't have less water. We are pumping less water intentionally.
Okay. Very good. Next up on our reports, Matt, we have the ZBA report. And who would like to give that?
Well, I usually give it, but I can't really read it. I
Okay,
know they had 2 public hearings, but I can't get it on my computer.
okay, Matt's got it. Can you see the screen share there, Bill?
Yeah, I can't move it though.
Okay, well, he can move it for you.
Well, the ZBA met and they had concerning on their agenda 2 items. One is the application by Mighty Donuts, which is called the Mighty Donuts along Route 9 south of the village. And the other was a matter regarding Norman Gregg and an interpretation. So they had the public hearing and they heard from everybody. And if you scroll up, I can tell you what they did. The other way. They closed the keep going. They closed the public hearing and considered 6 variances. You go ahead and scroll it down. And they acted upon all 6 of them, which is kind of a complicated system. It's all on the website.
Okay, I think there were 6 factors as opposed to 6
Factors were
variances, yeah,
considered, yeah,
related to the variances.
right.
Okay, so that's our ZBA report. Next up. The monthly dog control report, Bill. You got 2 of them.
Bill Hamill?
Yep. We have Bill with us.
Bill, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I was muted. Yeah, we didn't have one last month, so they got me April and May's. And in April, the nuisance dog, I sent an email that was really sort of a non-issue. That was back in January. But in April, they had one issue with a cat, and feral cats are a big problem in the county. And it's mostly wildlife calls, various kinds of wildlife that have been reported to deal with, sometimes to be trapped and released or whatever. But I do want to point out that the feral cat issue is a serious issue in the county. In fact, it's probably one of the leading things that the Dutchess County SPCA works on. In May, if you want to scroll to the next month, in May, there were 3 loose dogs that were rounded up. This was the one nuisance dog complaint that I checked with, and it didn't seem to be a serious problem. And again, we have 5. There was 5 feral cats and 5 wildlife. And at the bottom, the SPCA did mention in their report that feral cats are sort of an issue, and they're trying to trap and neuter them and find kittens' homes. but I believe when I first met with SBC, they said that there's up to 20,000 feral cats in the county. It's a staggering number. And they have a very short lifespan, unfortunately. And so they're trying to reduce the number of feral cats that breed and then trying to find homes for kittens so they can find a suitable place. So that's it for the dog report or the animal control report.
Thanks very much, Bill. The assessor's report for May 2021, actually, I think it's really inclusive of June as well. The assessor's office has completed grievance day. It was held over Zoom on the fourth Tuesday of the month, the 25th. There were 27 applications and all determination letters have been sent out. For the folks at home, a reminder that all properties with residential structures had an adjustment of 4%. This should not necessarily mean an increase in your tax bill because all of the properties have gone up 4% to reflect market conditions. In fact, 4% seems rather modest considering what we're seeing out there as far as resale values. I wouldn't be surprised if there's another adjustment next year, but let's see. Let's see what happens. The final roll has been completed and will be posted online on July 1st. So if you're watching this Monday on Panda, it'll be on our website shortly thereafter. The month of May, there were 13 sales in the town, with the highest being $627,000 for a single family. The village of Red Hook, there was one sale for $218,500, and Tivoli had 3 sales with the highest at $400,000. There are additional sales coming in for the month of June, and the assessor thanks everyone in the departments for their support and collaboration. Building and zoning is up next. Bill Hamel.
Okay, so in the month of June, that's, from June 1st to today, of course, it's the summer and building activities are ramping up, people getting a lot of outside work done, roofs and whatnot. There were 42 permits issued. They've conducted 29 inspections. There are 18 certificates of occupancy or completion, 2 complaints, and a revenue of $6,023. There was one other statistic I thought I'd bring, which is on one of the pages way down. There's a pie chart, but it gives the amount of fees that we've collected year to date on permits, and it's over $46,000. I think the pandemic has caused a lot of people to not travel, do other things, and make some decisions to do work on their homes that they might not have otherwise done. And so we have seen what appears to be a significant increase in the amount of work being done by people on their homes. So I just wanted to point that out. I saw that when I read that this morning, and it occurred to me.
Yeah, the question, of course, is how long will it last? It always seems to be a boom bust cycle. In this case, it seems to be folks wanting to do a lot of construction, and then now with supply issues with some of the construction materials, there's a bit of sticker shock in some cases of what it costs to construct things. So we hope that there's some moderation. We could have something that seems more rational. And I know the building department has been working throughout the pandemic to try to keep everybody up and running and doing a great job at that. Okay, next up we have the Town of Red Hook Recreation Commission. Christine, if you'd be kind enough to report. Christine, are you muted? Did we lose her?
Nope, I was muted, sorry.
Okay.
I was just saying that, as you might imagine, we're coming into the very busiest time for the rec department. And as Robert mentioned at the top of the meeting, we are moving ahead with the summer rec program. And it looks like at this point, we might have over 100 children attending the summer program. One major change from previous years is we cannot use Mill Road School on rainy days because of various COVID protocols and whatnot that's happening. So we will have to go back to our previous policy of if it's a rainy day, then the rec program will be canceled. So we are fully staffed. There's a lot of extra requirements. So we had to have a health director, as well as an increase in the number of counselors for protocols and whatnot. But at this moment, we are fully staffed for the number of participants we are expecting. We continue to see tremendous amount of use of the parks. I think I mentioned previously that particularly the Challenger Field is attracting a lot of interest. Baseball, Little League, adult, softball. We even have the Red Hook Soccer Club is now using the field for some workouts a couple of times a week. So, and there's a lot of stuff that still has to happen regarding finishing up the dugouts at both east and west areas. The mowing is going to take up a lot of effort and a lot of time over the summer, as you might imagine. Another important thing to mention is that the security cameras have now been installed. We have 18 cameras now throughout the parks. We not only because we have a significant investment in the equipment and the infrastructure that has happened there, but unfortunately because we do still have continued problems with graffiti and uses that are not allowed in the park. And so while it may seem that this type of use is harmless, we are now dealing with something, for instance, in the pavilion that is in Rec Park East. A couple of years ago or 2 years ago, we had a prank where all of the picnic tables were placed on the pavilion roof. And before they could be moved, they had damaged the shingles, and before those could be replaced, it rained and we had leaks, and that had resulted in damage to the ceiling, which is, now coming apart and has to be replaced. Also, we have continuing problems, for instance, with skateboarders using the picnic tables and setting up ramps and obstacles and whatnot. And not only does that damage the picnic tables, but then when, people come and try to picnic there, the picnic tables are, stacked up or outside pavilion, whatever, and require either use or they just leave because they can't use them. The town board, one of the things we'll be taking up is we have to establish a policy for the cameras and, who and when will have access to them, and working with the police department about access. So that is something that is coming onto our list of things to do now that all of that is in place. So I think that's it. Oh, I will just say, for instance, we do have on all the signs in the park, for anyone who's out there listening, it's golfing is not allowed in the parks. And we continue to find golf balls both in the grass fields and on the synthetic field, the Challenger Field. And one of the main reason we don't have that is because, particularly in the grass over in Rec Park West, as they're mowing, a golf ball can come shooting out of the machinery at really, really high rates, and heaven forbid that it should, come in contact with a person and cause injury, or with another piece of equipment or a car in the parking lot or anything like that and cause damage. So please do not hit your golf balls or practice your golf swings in the rec park. So that's it.
Thanks, Christine. And we did, while we're on the topic of recreation, In our summer rec program, we have playground time for some of the kids, and the question came up whether or not the public would still be allowed in the playground during those times, those periods. I'm not sure how we would, even if we wanted to exclude the public from use of the equipment. But I did want that question to be posed to you all. Does that make sense that we keep it open for others to use as well, that we work around any additional kids that are there at the park?
Yes, I mean, I don't think we're
Agreed.
making, there's nowhere it says that the park is exclusive to the rec program or anything like that.
Right. Okay. Very good. Next up, we have the Town of Red Hook Senior Services Committee report, meeting late May, talking about surveying ideal uses for the electric transport vans that are being constructed. The committee discussed efforts to get seniors vaccinated. They also tackled how to do a survey and how to partner with the county on those transportation questions, looking at some drop-off locations within our community, library, supermarket, community center, and potential beyond the township, either the hospital, clinics, and the town of Rhinebeck. They're going to talk to Friends of Seniors, which they've met with in the past, to see how they're doing and what assistance they can provide. And so they're going to meet again the end of June. Right. I don't think we have any more committee or board reports, if I'm not mistaken, Matt. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So we have some correspondence of Dutchess County writing to us to see if we want to remain in the next 3-year Community Development Block Grant Consortia. And yes, I would imagine that we would, wouldn't we? All the municipalities have joined together in order to participate efficiently in CDBG. And there are additional monies, by the way, coming down the pike for CDBG in the near future. Does that make sense to continue to remain in the group?
I agree.
Okay, thanks, Bill. And lastly, we've had a request. There'll be folks have probably seen there's additional filming going on in our community. It's quite flattering that movies are wanting to shoot in our community, and in the near future, there'll be a production nearby to one of our municipal facilities, and they've asked to lease for the day. Just for catering associated with that filming. There'll be a fee which will benefit our budget for the use of the property for 24 hours. And so I'm assuming you're okay with that. It would be a $2,500 donation that they would be making in exchange for the use of just the portion of the parking lot that we don't need. Everyone okay with that?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you very much. At this time, I will check, and I don't believe that we have additional comments, public comments. And so I would entertain a motion to close the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Christine. Any further business, folks? If not, we want to wish everyone well. Happy summer. It's finally here. Be safe and enjoy what feels like a return to a more normal time. Thank you all. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks,
Night.
Robert.